Hi guys, I'm not unique. Many of us have been directly or indirectly affected by dementia. So today I'm up at the Milton Keynes Sports Bar where we'll be hosting our charity darts competition on the 30th of November to meet the lovely Demi from Dementia UK. We're going to be handing over some goodies, all kinds of different swag and pop-ups and everything else that we need for the big day. And then I'm going to sit down with her and we're going to have a quick chat so you can understand where your money and your donations are going to go, what Dementia UK does as a charity, and find out a little bit more ahead of the big day. I know I do a lot of upbeat and good fun content. Obviously today is something a little bit more serious. So yeah, stick with me team for 1-2 minutes as we have a chat with Demi about darts and Dementia UK. Hiya.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very good. We're all set up.
We're all set up, ready to go.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Excellent. We are good to go. Okay.
Yeah.
In the description as well.
Cool. Sounds good.
Okay. I think we're good to go.
Cool.
Right, I just need to sync the sound.
Okay. I haven't played darts very often, but I did play quite recently at a restaurant that had darts boards, and I won. So pretty good, actually, I think.
It's becoming quite popular.
It is. That's what I am hearing and seeing at the moment.
And do you, through the charity, do you deal with any other kind of like darting type events, or is this a first?
This is a first for me. I don't know of any of my other colleagues that have had a darts competition either, so I think this is a first for us.
Well, I jokingly said when I've been on sort of streaming that most people in their 30s will go ahead and decide to do a half marathon for charity.
Yeah.
And I thought, why not a darts event, which
Yeah.
is, well, I thought it'd be far less effort, but it's turning out to be far more effort than running a half marathon.
You just have to turn up on the day when it's the marathon. You know, everyone else kind of organises all the stuff
Yeah.
around it. You just turn up. You've had to do a lot more than that.
No, it is fully encompassing at the moment. So, obviously, to begin with, many people are aware of dementia. I think many now are aware through some of the work that you do, other charities and organisations around the different types of dementia. What exactly does Dementia UK do?
Dementia UK is the specialist dementia nursing charity, and we're there for the whole family affected by dementia, right from the beginning to whenever they need us.
And typically, when are people approaching you? Are you typically working with people that are of an older generation, or do you work with all types of generation and people?
We work with all types of generation and people. So we work with a lot of people who have young onset dementia, so that means that they're diagnosed before they're 65. That is becoming more prevalent now, so we have people that contact us when they're kind of in their 50s, in their 40s to say that they've been diagnosed with dementia, or they're supporting a loved one with dementia who's been diagnosed at a young age. And then we have people right up to, 90s, 100s that have got dementia as well, so all sorts of ages.
No, understood. And when you say offering support, what does that really look like?
So we have over 450 Admiral Nurses, and they work in a variety of different settings. So they staff our helpline. We have virtual clinics, so people can come online and book an appointment to speak to us virtually, so whether that be on the phone or kind of on Zoom. So people can book that on our website. We have Admiral Nurses that work out in the community, so they work in GP surgeries, in hospices, in hospitals, and then they go out into people's homes. And they offer advice, support, and really like a listening ear. They're there to, we don't do so much, we do signpost if that's what is necessary, but mostly we're there to give like emotional support and advice, and make sure that the family need everything that so they have everything they need, so that the person that they love is cared for in a way that is important to them.
Absolutely, and it's a very challenging time, not just for that person, but for close family and friends for that person with the diagnosis. What typical support do you offer those that maybe are part of the family or are within the close friendship group?
As a charity, we were set up to provide support for the family because we often found that it was the person who had dementia who was receiving a lot of care, but it was the family that were struggling, knowing how to support someone emotionally, physically, all those sorts of things. So we can provide guidance on the sort of financial support that might be available for someone, whether that's accessing certain services, certain funding for the loved one that has dementia. It can also include things like making sure you know what benefits you're entitled to if you become a carer and you need financial support. We help with communication issues, and there are all sorts of different things that we're available to speak to people about.
Oh, that's great. The nature of fundraising at the moment is great. We're seeing loads of different people raising money through, as I said at the beginning, half marathons, through events, through walkathons, whatever it could be. Like there's loads of different ways. Coffee catch-ups. What are some of the funky ways, some of the different ways you've seen people raising money for the charity?
So darts, obviously. I just said that you were the first person I've had that I've supported that's done a darts competition, so that's a good one, and we're very grateful to you that you're supporting us. Thank you very much. Lots of weird and wonderful ways people get involved with us. We recently had a lady who was in her 90s, and she did one of the, when you're on the plane, the walk.
A wing walk?
A wing walk.
At 90?
At 90,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So she did that for us quite recently. Goodness, we had people doing all sorts of different things for us. Head shaves, those sorts of things, like a standard fundraising thing, but I think that, pretty big deal. I'm trying to think, we've had people do rowing competitions for us. We had a guy, Johnny, a couple of years ago, and he did a row hundreds of miles and over like weeks, and lots of different things that people do for us, and we don't really mind what people do as long as they support us.
No, absolutely. So events like this one, and people are raising money through all kinds of different things, but for events like this, where does that money exactly go to?
So it goes to support our Specialist Dementia Admiral Nurses. They support families affected by dementia. So they do that on the helpline, going to see people in their own homes. They work out in GP surgeries, but mostly it just means that they'll be there for the whole family affected by dementia, whether that's at the start of their journey, when they just find out that they have dementia, or later on when they're talking about palliative care for their loved ones, talking to people about all sorts of different things. But some of the common things we get questions about are things like, my loved one still wants to drive, he might not be able to anymore, how do we communicate that to him? He gets upset about that, and our Admiral Nurses can kind of talk through those situations with people and really be there to support and make sure that the whole family live well with dementia.
No, absolutely. Could you give some real life examples of where Admiral Nurses have supported real people that need the support with dementia?
So we have a volunteer ambassador called James, lovely man, and his wife had young onset Alzheimer's, and she was 56 when she was diagnosed, and James was 45 at the time. And he started to notice things like problems with her orientation. She'd get lost quite easily and things like that. So not necessarily the kind of common symptoms that you'd think about in terms of like memory loss or maybe problems with communication. What he noticed was that she was getting lost quite easily in places that she was normally very familiar. And James did ask Maria to go to the GP. They went along, and she was, in the end, not straight away, but she was diagnosed with young onset Alzheimer's disease. And James cared for Maria, and for the few years before they met an Admiral Nurse, they navigated it as best they could, and then they were starting to struggle, at which point James met one of our Admiral Nurses, Maggy, and James says that Maggy was a lifeline to him, and he really doesn't know how he would cope without Maggy, and James will often say that he feels very lucky to have had Maggy's care and support, but he doesn't want to be lucky. He wants that to be something that everyone receives. It shouldn't be luck of the draw. And he lives in Hackney, and a mile or so away from him, people can't access the support of an Admiral Nurse. And so he will always say that he wants that to be the case for everyone. And Maggy helped him with things like he didn't want Maria to go into a care home, but eventually the decision was made that it would be best for Maria's own safety for her to be in a care home. And James has mentioned to me before that the sort of place where he would have chosen for Maria, they live in London, and he wanted somewhere with like big green open spaces and all this kind of thing, which is tricky to find in London. But James that's what James had kind of pictured for her. But when he met Maggy made him see that whilst that was nice, the things that were important were how many members of staff to each client at the facility, and things like, because she had young onset dementia, some care homes or residential places don't even take people under the age of 65, and Maria was under that age. And so there are some places that can't deal with that or do only have older people at their facility, and Maggy made him see the things that were actually important. And James will say, like, I wouldn't have picked the place that she thought was best, but actually, like, what I did really see was how much they loved and cared for Maria at the place that she ended up going. And he said, like, what a pivotal thing that was for them. And
yeah, I'm just hearing here that somebody with real qualification experience, who is slightly removed, who can see the bigger picture, really able to give that real critical guidance at a time where yeah, emotions are going to be very high in the family, of course.
Yeah, and when you don't necessarily know all the questions to ask, so Maggie went with James to go and visit some of the care homes, and some of the questions that Maggie was asking were about like the ratio of staff to each client, the turnover of staff, asking about what activities would be available for Maria, particularly because she was younger. And these are things that James says himself, like he wouldn't have thought to have asked.
We're not qualified to know these,
Exactly.
you know, until you have to go through it, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, James has said what a lifeline Maggie has been to him, and Maggie has cared for James even after that. So sadly, Maria died last year, but Maggie helped James after Maria's passing and went along to the funeral and all that sort of thing. And Maggie continues to support James now.
And a final question: you guys are super active on social media, online. I've seen a growing YouTube channel yourself.
Yeah.
What kind of other projects do you have coming up and other things that people should know about or could get involved in?
So we recently released a podcast, very new to us. We have, I think, 6 episodes so far, and they tell the experience of people that have been supported by our Admiral nurses. So some of them are currently volunteers for us or supporters for us. One man in particular, he does marathons, as you mentioned earlier. So yeah, we've got a new podcast, and it's hosted by Jim Broadbent. It's a lovely podcast. I've listened to all the episodes, and I think they're personally amazing. So if people want to hear more about the experiences of families that are affected by dementia, they can listen to the podcast. And then we also have something new starting in November, which is our webinar series. And the aim is to support families that have recently found out about a dementia diagnosis and they don't know where to turn to for support. So often we hear people say that they received their diagnosis, they got lots of leaflets, but they didn't really know where to turn to for support and what things might look like in the future. So our webinar series, I think the first episode is called What's Next? So what's next for us with our dementia experience? But it'll talk about all sorts of different things. There'll be things about finances, there'll be things about like what the future might look like, and that's every Friday, the first, second and third Friday of every month from November.
Okay, no, that's great. And actually I think for a lot of people listening, that is the big question. It is, what happens next?
Yes.
And obviously these things come around very, very quickly.
Yes.
And taking action is really key. I suppose just to finish, if people want to find out more information, of course you've got the podcast. I've seen the amazing work that your team are doing socially to spread awareness. But if people wanted to go and find out more information right now, where would you suggest they go?
I would suggest that they firstly go to our website, which is dementiauk.org. You'll find information on there about how to access support, to book a virtual clinic. You'll find our helpline number, and you'll also find information about how to support us if you wanted to fundraise or make a donation.
Perfect, thank you very much. Well, all of those links will be on the description to this video here, where you can find out more information about Dementia UK, all the great work the Admiral nurses are doing. Demi, thank you very much for all your time today and support to our little event here.
Oh, it's amazing. We're really grateful to you for what you're doing.
It's been great, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if I'll put this in.
Handshake at the end.
Okay, that's a wrap, guys, from this interview with Demi. Demi, thank you so much for your time and effort coming up here to meet with me and to share a little bit of swag and, of course, talk about the critical work your nurses and Dementia UK is doing for everyone that needs support. That just leaves me to say, if you'd like to give to Dementia UK, I've got my Just Giving link in the description below, along with all the links that Demi talked about in the interview. So if you need support, you need any kind of help or guidance, it's all there on the Dementia UK website. And I guess that just leaves me now to say thank you to all of you guys for your support over the last year, getting ready for this big darting event up here in Milton Keynes. There's still places available to register if you'd like to contribute to the raffle, if you'd like to donate. Everything you need to know is in the description. At a minimum, please can I just ask if you can like this video to help it, hit that algorithm and get going, so we can spread as much awareness for the event and for the charity as possible. If you've not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We've got lots more content coming up, but that was something new for me, something I've really wanted to do since the day we announced this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and it helps just one of you. That would be absolutely amazing. Look after yourself, take care, see you in the next one.